Hey y'all, today we're going to talk about taping a tumbler to get the perfect edges and seams, I hope. So stick around. Hey everybody and welcome. Today I want to show you how I've started taping tumblers to get as close as I can to a perfect seam and great edges. And let's start off talking about tape. So I've used 4 different types of tape. The first type that I used, I don't have anymore. I used it up. It came with a little set with silicone mats that I got on Amazon when I first started, and it was okay. And then I went to Amazon and I got this tape, and I love it. However, I realized it came in different sizes. So this is the only tape that I use, and I highly recommend it. One of these, I just got these the other day. One of these is the wider, I want to say it's, I think 33. Well, let's look and see. So this is the size that I am currently using and that I'll use today when I wrap the tumbler, when I show you how I wrap it. And I absolutely love this tape because it is, I want to say, well, I'll tell you, it's 20 millimeters wide. So it's pretty wide tape. Now, the other tape I just got that I want to try is not quite as wide, but it is, I don't know if I can get it open. It's not as thin as the first tape that I used. Let me pull it out. This is 13 millimeters. So you got 3, I want to say this was 10 millimeters, 13 millimeters, and 20 millimeters. This is what I'm using now, and I use this desktop tape dispenser to put it on, slide it right in here, and it slides in there and it works perfect. I'm thinking about getting this tape dispenser because I can put both the 20 millimeter as well as the 13 millimeter on one tape dispenser. And I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Today I'm only wrapping with the 20 millimeter, but I think I'm going to start incorporating this, this middle size as well. So let's get to my progression on how I started wrapping tumblers versus where I am today. It's changed a little bit, but not a lot. So let me show you from the first time I started wrapping tumblers up till today. Okay, so let me talk for a moment about the progression of when I first started wrapping tumblers to where I am now. Let's get all this tape out of the way. When I first started, I was doing a convection oven, and I still have the oven, and I'm still prepared if something happened to the tumbler or I needed to crank out a whole bunch in a short period of time. I've still got the convection oven, but this is the way I originally did it. I started with a piece of tape in the center and then worked my way out and then taped the top and bottom. And then I would shrink wrap this, and I did a whole bunch that way, and then I added the little rubber bands on the edges. I don't know if they helped or not, but I added them. So this was the way I did it for quite some time. Then when I got the tumbler press, I thought, you know, the pressure of the corner of the tumbler press pushing down will probably cause me to not need to tape the top or the bottom. So this was the first way that I did it. And it didn't come out very well. It's in one of my previous videos. So I thought, you know what, let me try it a different way because I really wanted to use less tape. One advantage to having a tumbler press is I no longer have to use shrink wrap. But I wanted to limit the amount of tape and be as efficient as possible. This didn't work. So I ended up going, thanks to somebody very talented on Facebook, I started doing it this way. And this worked. I probably did 10 or 15, maybe 20 tumblers this way, and it worked okay. But I ended up doing it this way. And this was my preferred method until maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Start with one down the middle, and then one here, one here, one here, one here, tape the top, tape the bottom. And the beautiful thing about this is when you finish, you can just pull the top and bottom off, pull this middle one out, this middle piece of tape out, and it automatically causes the edges of these to pull open. So it's really easy to get the paper off once you finish. So literally I've probably done a couple of hundred like this and it worked out good, but I still would have occasional challenges with my, not as much the seams as the tops and bottoms. And I found myself cutting, trimming the bottom so it didn't overlap, so I wouldn't get the little shadowed areas. But not too long ago, I opted to wrap the way that I'm going to show you in this video, and that is this way, and that's adding an extra piece of tape on the top and the bottom. And you know, like I said before, I was a little concerned about the adding extra tape. I wanted to save money, but I did a little bit of quick math, and that roll, where is it? This roll of the 20 millimeter by 33 meters, which is 108 feet. I ended up doing the math on that, and with two of these, it's 216 feet. So it came out to, I don't know, like 5 cents a foot or 0.00385 cents per inch. And if I'm doing 20 extra inches by doing 2 extra wraps on this, it's costing me 7 cents, 8 cents, just under 8 cents to do it. So I figure for really great seams, that extra 8 cents is more than worth it. So let's go wrap this tumbler. Okay, so we will do this print first. And I'm going to do this one on a matte tumbler. And I haven't changed much. I think this is the way I've been doing it the whole time. The only real difference is on the tops and bottoms. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I wanted to get a press was so I wouldn't have to pay for shrink wrap. And I know that sounds funny, but you know, 50 cents a pop, 20 cents a pop, you do 100 tumblers, well, it starts to add up a little bit. Anyway, I was being a little stingy with the tape until I realized this tape doesn't cost much. I was being a little stingy with the taping. Quite frankly, I don't need to be. So anyway, I tape the center, I tape the down the seam, and then I do one piece on the bottom. This is the way I've been doing it. But this piece goes right down the middle, so when I'm rotating it in the heat press, I can see where I am. So that's important for me at least. And let me show you what I'm talking about. When I first put the tumbler in the tumbler press, I put that mark at the 9 o'clock position, and then I press for 50 seconds. And at the end of that 50 seconds, I rotate the tumbler 180 degrees, and that little mark shows me that I'm rotating it correctly. So that's at the 3 o'clock position. And after another 50 seconds, I rotate it 90 degrees to the 6 o'clock position. And after another 20 seconds, I rotate it to the top 12 o'clock position for the final 20 seconds. And then I will do this last piece. It doesn't really matter that much. Now here's where I'm a little bit different on the tops. Before I did one wrap. I'm going to still do that wrap. However, I'm going to do it about 3/4 of the way on the actual tumbler, and I'm not pulling at all. I mean, I am barely pulling. Maybe a little bit, but not a lot. And I'll show you why. So I'm going to do this over, and then see these spots here? I'm going to try to pull up on those and flatten those out as much as I can. See those? That's going to normally leave me a little spot. And I used to get really nervous when I'd see these. Sometimes I'd rewrap. See that right there? That could cause a problem. However, after flattening it down as much as possible, and these matte tumblers are more forgiving. However, it's a little bit harder to get them, for me, to get the the paper on there. And now here's what I do different on both sides. I add one more piece, and then I take it and I put it on the edge of the tumbler, and now I'm going to pull as tight as I can, but only on the edge. And I'm talking about a lot of pressure. And then what it does is it pulls most of those out. I don't know if you can see there where I was able to really get that out more. So that second piece of tape is not pulling on the paper, it's pulling against that edge. Let's do this one. This one you can see is a little bit over. So I normally would be worried. I cheat a little bit and usually stop the image about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, 1/16 of an inch from the bottom. But doing the taping this way, I found that at least for me, it's been easier. I think the puppy might be messing with the tripod. So anyway, I wrap this around. Again, very, very, very little pressure, if any. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this up. Push it up, push it up, push it up. And just, I'm pushing that over. And then I'm going to go back, same thing. I'm going to find those spots where it looks like it's got the, that's a good one right there, where it's got the potential air. And once I've done that, I'll take one final piece, and this is the one that I'm really literally just going around this edge with it. At least I'm trying to. And I'm pulling crazy, crazy tight, but only on the edge. All right. And that is the first one. I always run my thumb up here. Watch it, puppy dog. And up here. And that is ready to press. So, whoop, that is ready to press. So we'll do one more and see how they come out. And this one will be on a regular tumbler. Flip it like this, and then I always turn it upside down and push that against the bottom, and it pull tight. And pull that over. Now, I'll do the seam. And I'm doing the top part of the seam, and I'll pull this against the tape. And pull it against the tape, my one end, so I can see where it is. Oh, there's Puppy. And then the first piece of tape, I'm not pulling at all. Now, depending on what the image is, that's okay. Depending on what the image is, sometimes I won't do this because like this image is going to be forgiving. So if this comes out fine, I can see, if I can see space here, I can see space here, that was where that was, then I'm going to go ahead and do the second piece of tape. So it should have come out better than it did. It didn't, so that's when I can pull really tight. And for the most part, that should do it. We'll do the bottom real quick. Same thing. First one, we're doing very lightly, almost not pulling at all. I really have just enough pressure to hold the tape where it needs to be. And then I'll push this up. This one doesn't have as much of an overlap, so I really doubt I'll have any challenges. But you know what? What is a inch piece of tape costs, 10-inch piece of tape costs. At first I wasn't doing this second piece all the time, and now I'm doing it just about every time. If it's an image, a design that's got rust, or an unusual pattern that's very forgiving, then I might not do it. Or if it's white with just something, with just graphics in the middle, I won't do it. But I've been double taping the top and bottom a lot more recently. And I know some of you folks, some of y'all don't tape the edges at all, and I applaud you for that. I just can't get away with it. Anyway, that's how I'm wrapping now. So here is our dog mom, and as you can see, this is probably not the best one to show as an example because there was a lot of white on the top, but it came out great. The seam came out great. I'll talk about that in a minute. And this one came out fantastic as well. But here's what's funny. This is a file that I bought off of Etsy. I went in and cleaned up this area a little bit, but I added a space for where the seam goes, and I typically do that. I have a couple here. Here's one. Here's a mistake. But it's a file I bought on Etsy, and I added this little gray thing to cover up any seam. And then here's another one I bought a while back that didn't have this edge, and I just added the edge. And that way I'd rather have that and it look like it was meant to be than to have a messed up edge. But what's funny is this is the file that I made from scratch, my whoop ass. And as you can see, the top came out fantastic, and the bottom came out fantastic. But look at the seam. I made the file, yet I didn't add the little spot on the seam, I didn't add the little line on the seam. So after I took these off, after I unwrapped these and realized that, I went back into the file and added that and pressed this one. And so you can see the difference. Here is the one where I added the little line on the seam, and here's the one without it. Now, this is fine, but to me, this looks cleaner and it fits within the design. So that is what I typically do, and wrapping it this way with that extra piece of tape on the top and bottom really, really helps. These seams are just about perfect. Please feel free to leave your technique in the comments section. I'm always curious to see how people are wrapping. There are people, like I said earlier, that can use a couple of pieces of tape and it come out fine. I just can't do that. And I figure an extra 10 cents, 8 cents for a little bit more tape is certainly worth a great seam if it's the way I have to do it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe. We'd love to have you. I've got a lot of great ideas for videos in this coming year. And Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great day. I'm only wrapping with a 20. It's changed a little bit. It's changed a little bit. It's changed a little bit, but not a lot. It's changed a little bit, but not a lot. So stick around.